What if I told you that retiring at 40, or honestly even 35, isn't just some wild pipe dream? It's actually an incredibly achievable reality for average Americans making average incomes. And no, you don't need a massive inheritance, and we're not banking on a lottery win here. It's just a proven, rock-solid mathematical framework that thousands of people are literally using right now to just escape the 40-year 9-to-5 grind decades ahead of schedule. Welcome to this explainer. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because here in 2026, the financial independence retire early movement, you've probably heard it called FIRE, is just absolutely huge. People are completely rethinking what their working lives actually have to look like. So today, we're going to break down the exact step-by-step roadmap to get you there, no matter where you're starting from today.
Here's how we're going to do this. First, we'll look at the broken retirement system. 2, we'll meet the FIRE movement. 3, we'll calculate the magic FIRE number. 4, we'll go through your 5-step FIRE roadmap. And finally, making FIRE a reality. Number 1, the broken retirement system. Why 65 is the old goal. So why are so many people just aggressively rejecting the old plan of working for 40 long years to retire at 65? Well, the traditional model is broken, and there are 4 stark reasons why. First, pensions are practically extinct. Only about 15% of private sector workers have one today. Second, Social Security is staring down a massive funding crisis by 2032. Third, the average American reaches retirement age with less than $100,000 saved, which, let's be real, simply isn't gonna cut it. And fourth, and I think this is the biggest tragedy of all, working until 65 means spending your healthiest, most energetic decades trapped behind a desk. It's rough, right? But this reality perfectly sets the stage for FIRE as the much-needed antidote. Section 2. Meet the FIRE movement. All right, let's pivot to the solution. This concept totally flipped the personal finance landscape on its head back in the 2010s, and by 2026, it has evolved massively. FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, and the core philosophy here is brilliantly straightforward. You save and invest aggressively until your investment portfolio generates enough passive income to cover all of your living expenses forever. The real magic? It makes work an option, not a requirement. You literally never have to work for money again unless you actually want to. And this brilliantly illustrates how versatile the movement is. It's not just for extreme minimalists living off ramen noodles. Look at these 4 distinct paths. First, there's Lean FIRE, where you retire early on a super minimal budget of under $40,000 a year. Then on the other end, there's Fat FIRE, for those wanting a generous lifestyle of $100,000 or more. Next up is Barista FIRE, where you reach partial independence and take a low-stress part-time job, maybe at a coffee shop, just for health insurance and some fun money. And finally, Coast FIRE. This is where you invest heavily in your early years, and then you just sort of coast in a lower-pressure job until traditional retirement age, while compound interest does all the heavy lifting. So as you can see, there's a flavor of FIRE for pretty much everyone. Section 3. The magic FIRE number. Now, let's get to the real engine of this explainer. The million-dollar question, well, maybe literally, how much money do you actually need to pull this off? Here's the absolute mathematical core of the entire movement. To find your exact target, you just take your annual living expenses and multiply them by 25. That's it. That one simple equation is your personal key to financial freedom.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how shockingly achievable the goal becomes when you break the math down. If your annual spending is $35,000, your FIRE number is $875,000. If you spend $50,000, you need $1.25 million. You see the pattern here? The lower your expenses are, the smaller your FIRE number becomes, and the faster you're going to cross that finish line. It's like a giant puzzle, and controlling your spending is the absolute missing piece.
So you might be wondering, why multiply by 25? Well, it's based on the famous 4% rule, which comes from the landmark 1998 Trinity study. Researchers basically found that a portfolio holding a solid mix of stocks and bonds could sustain a 4% annual withdrawal for 30 years with a 95% success rate. We're talking surviving even the Great Depression. And withdrawing 4% mathematically equals dividing by 25. Now, just as a quick aside, some modern FIRE practitioners do use a slightly more conservative 3 to 3.5% withdrawal rate if they're planning on a super long retirement, like 40 or 50 years. But this math remains the absolute, unshakable foundation of the whole strategy. Section 4. Your 5-step FIRE roadmap. All right, let's shift into action mode. We are now going to map out the exact sequence to reach that magic number. It's 5 steps. 1. Calculate your number. 2. Maximize your savings rate. 3. Invest aggressively. 4. Build income streams. And 5.
mitigate sequence risk. Okay, let's drill down into each one right now. We already know step 1 is calculating your number based on your spending. So the crucial point is step 2, your savings rate. This is without a doubt the single most powerful variable in your entire FIRE journey. Traditional advice tells us to save 10%, right? Well, doing that takes about 43 years to reach FIRE. But look at the massive jump in the data here. If you bump that savings rate up to 50%, you reach FIRE in just 17 years. The FIRE community routinely aims for anywhere between 40 to 70%. By making that shift, you aren't just saving money, you are literally shaving decades off your working life. It's a total game changer. And that naturally leads into step 3, investing aggressively. Because where you put those savings matters immensely. The FIRE community overwhelmingly favors low-cost index funds, like total market funds such as VTI, or S&P 500 funds like VOO. You want to follow this exact priority order across your accounts. First, get your full 401k employer match. I mean, that is an instant 50 to 100% return. You just can't beat that. Second, max out your Roth IRA at the 2026 limit of $7,000 for that sweet tax-free growth. Third, max out the rest of your 401k at the $23,500 limit. And finally, step 4, dump any remaining funds into a taxable brokerage account. Moving on to step 4 of the roadmap, you have to realize that relying purely on your savings isn't the only way to do this. Building additional income streams dramatically speeds up the timeline, whether that's dividend income from your stocks that just pays out automatically, rental income providing monthly cash flow, maybe a digital product business, or even affiliate marketing. Every single new stream reduces the burden on your main investment portfolio and gives you ultimate financial security. And that brings us to step 5. We really need to address the biggest hidden danger of early retirement, something a lot of people just totally ignore: sequence of returns risk. Basically, this is the very real danger that a severe market crash happens right in your first 5 years of early retirement. If you're actively withdrawing from your portfolio while the market is completely plummeting, you can permanently damage your nest egg before it ever has a chance to bounce back. But don't panic. Fortunately, the fix for this is incredibly simple and honestly a huge stress reliever. You just maintain 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or in a high-yield savings account. This acts as your protective buffer. So during a market crash, you live off this cash instead of selling off your investments at the absolute bottom. Then, once the market recovers, you just replenish the buffer. Simple as that. Section 5, making FIRE a reality. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking. How on earth can an average earner actually execute this? Let's do an honest reality check here. The truth is, the average American earning $55,000 a year cannot realistically save 70% of their income. It's just not going to happen. But listen, the goal here isn't perfection. What is highly realistic for most people is Coast FIRE, front-loading your investments in your 20s, or Barista FIRE, retiring partially in your late 40s. Remember, even if this entire framework just helps you retire at 58 instead of 65, that is still a massive, life-changing win for your financial freedom. So, to make this super concrete, here are your immediate marching orders, your specific 2026 action plan. This week, I want you to calculate your FIRE number and open up a Roth IRA. This month, increase your savings rate by just 5% and set up automatic investments into VTI or VOO. This year, make it a goal to max out that Roth IRA and get your full 401k match. And for the long term, start tracking your net worth every single month to keep that momentum going. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this really empowering final thought directly from our source material. The FIRE path is simple, not easy, but every month you invest is 1 month closer to the day you never have to work unless you want to. The math is absolutely undeniable here. It works for anyone willing to make those intentional choices. So I'll leave you with this. What is your FIRE target age? And how far along are you on that journey? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope this framework sparks a whole new level of financial curiosity for you. Keep tracking those goals, and I'll see you next time.